All right, now we can talk about money. So before you started, did you save up a bunch of money for this project? If you're comfortable, you can say how much. If not, that's totally fine. I get it. People don't like to talk about money. But like, how did you talk about the process of budgeting for this and how much research went into it and how you maintain that budget on the road?
So I actually wrote a whole book about how we planned and budgeted for van life. It's available as an Amazon Kindle book or an Amazon hard copy book if you want to check it out. But basically, we set this budget based on stuff that I'd seen other YouTubers do. Like they break down their monthly budgets. And so I was like, okay, I think we'll roughly need this much per month to live. And so it broke down to $1,000 each per month for 12 months. So we each needed to save $12,000 to be able to travel for a full year without having to worry about anything.
And like, remind you now, this all happened while we were both working physical jobs in New York City. We were both making probably about around $100,000 a year. We were doing fairly well for ourselves with the companies that we were working for respectively. And we were able to buy and build out the van, fix the van while we had an income, as well as save the money for the travels. So the budget that we had to live and travel with was separate from the budget that we utilized to build the first van. The first van in total, buying, fixing, and building was probably around $15,000, which is fairly on the cheaper end of van life.
Well, if you think about it, like $15,000 divided by 12 months of the year, that's less than you would be paying in rent in New York City, especially.
Yeah. I pay more than that.
Yeah. So you end up, saving a lot of money if you're going to live in it for a while. And then we actually turned around and sold that vehicle for a profit and then got ourselves into this newer vehicle. So we budgeted that we would be spending about $2,000 a month between the two of us. And we were pretty good at sticking to that. At the beginning, we were doing this challenge where we were trying to get to all 71 Epic and Icon mountains in a single season, which meant that our gas bill was insane because like every single day we were driving to like 4 different mountains or crossing the country or going to the next state or whatever. So we were racking up the miles and the gas bill was getting out of control. But now we travel a lot more slowly, a lot more deliberately. We'll kind of get to an area and hang out there for a couple of weeks, so we're buying gas a lot less often. So that definitely helps keep your budget a lot lower.
And I will say that fuel is a lot more expensive this time around than when we were in the first vehicle. So
yeah. And
something to really think about when you're budgeting.
How long have you been living the van life? When did you first start?
We moved in December of 2019.
Yeah, so almost 2 years now we've been living this lifestyle.
So you right when a few months later, like COVID started. How did COVID affect your lifestyle?
Actually, it didn't at all in the beginning. We lived a very normal lifestyle because we were going to, national parks and state parks and traveling throughout like BLM land, which is Bureau of Land Management. It's actually land that we could all go and utilize and camp on for free. It's something that we, in our federal taxpayer dollars, that there's money that goes towards that. So we actually had an opportunity to kind of explore the country without anybody out there. And we would be out in places by ourselves that would normally be pretty packed out in a normal year. So we got to really enjoy life and explore different places. Life was pretty easy for us compared to a lot of other people.
The only thing that really changed, I'll say, is that a lot of things were closed. Yeah. So we do have a toilet and shower inside of the van, but we try to use showers at gyms or toilets at grocery stores or, like using more like public facilities, just because then it's less that you have to deal with. It's less water that you're going through. It's less often that you have to dump. But a lot of these public spaces were closed at the very beginning of the pandemic. So that was a little bit stressful. Like you'd run into the grocery store to be like, oh my God, I gotta go. And they'd be like, no, our bathrooms are closed. And you're like, good damn it. Yeah. So it was a little bit frustrating, but everything's, 100% back open.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I will say that what makes it a little bit harder now is the state to state difference in like how they're handling COVID and everything going on. So depending on the state, you might not be allowed to just kind of show up. You might have to go through certain maybe get a negative test or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there are a little bit more hoops that you have to jump through now. But overall, it's still an amazing lifestyle if you're willing to put in the work for it.
So the budget you originally started with, is a lot of that money still, is even some of that money still there? Like, do you still make money on the side? Obviously, you have your podcast, your Patreon, your 2 books, so there's income coming in from there. Is that enough to sustain yourself, or do you even still work small jobs, or is it money that's been budgeted from when you first started?
Well, so all the money from when we first started saving is basically gone.
Yeah.
Between living in the van for 11 months and then building a whole new van, we kind of, all that money was spent.
I will say that we've never went through like our full savings. Like, there was always money coming in as we were traveling on the road. In the first, van, we were making YouTube videos still, and we started to build an audience on our YouTube channel, which grew enough to where we were making enough money to live this lifestyle on the road and save money. So that was something that was kind of unexpected, but we were working for. We didn't realize it was going to happen so quickly. For us, we were very fortunate that it was quick enough to where we could put money away and not just fly through our savings.
But so now we're at a point where we're earning enough money to pay for our monthly life on the road without going into any of our more long-term savings that we have. Right. So as long as we can continue to make the lifestyle sustainable, like, obviously if we got to a point where like nobody wanted to watch our YouTube videos anymore, and the Patreons all left, and whatever, book sales dry up, whatever, we would just settle down somewhere and get jobs. But for the time, travel is basically self-sustaining for us, so why not keep traveling?
I mean, it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to do when you're young. I mean, you guys are, I'm going to say late 20s.
Mid-30s.
Mid-30s?
Yeah, I'm 32.
All right, that was close. Very close enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the point is, you're still super young. You got plenty of time to enjoy this lifestyle. So, like, how do taxes work? Because you don't, you still have like a permanent address per se.
Yep.
But, so I guess it would be that state.
Yeah, so we pay our taxes in Florida, which is where our like home address is.
And so in Florida, there's no state tax, so all you pay is federal taxes.
Oh,
so
you guys
we just
really,
have to make
you guys
sure.
really lucked out then.
Yeah.
Well, Frank bought a house for his mom with his siblings, so that's the house that we use as our, domicile.
That makes sense.
But yeah, so we just, every, at the beginning of the year, I call my accountant and I send them all my papers and show them what we made the year before, and we just submit everything electronically.
And one thing that we do is we make sure that we're putting 15% away of whatever our earnings are, so that way that money's put away for taxes.
Very
and then
smart.
when we do all of our taxes at the end of the year, whatever is needed to be paid or is not needed to be paid either goes into savings or we pay the IRS one another.
Yeah, and you gotta still put away for retirement too. You gotta do all of that by yourself. Like anything a traditional job would do, you gotta do all yourself. So,
well, when you really think back at it, most Americans don't even have jobs that do that.
Yeah,
most Americans are working, and they have a job that they might make, $27,000 on average a year. They're not putting away money in savings for the most part. So just having the financial savvy and understanding that you need to do these things is very important to all Americans and all people out there in general, to make sure to take like 10% of your money and at least put it into some type of investment or savings account, something that's going to accrue some type of interest so you could have more value later on in life.
And also the really important thing about van life is having an emergency fund, because something might happen to your van. You might have, an engine part go out, or a flat tire, or, a hailstorm dents in all your business. Like your house, it basically goes through an earthquake every single day as you're driving it around. Eventually, you're going to end up in the shop.
Something's going to give.
So you do need to have, some money put aside for that rainy day, because, we do know van lifers who are kind of like down to their, they're living to their like zero, like everybody knows somebody who every single month it's like budgeting down to that last dollar, which is fine until you have a $600 bill from a mechanic. And then what do you do?
Yeah.
So for us, it's really important, and we always advocate that if you're coming into van life, you should be debt free, and you should also have a safety net where if something goes wrong, that you can afford to get yourself out of that situation.
That's really good advice. That's really, really good advice. And Jasmine, you're gonna listen to this. Don't get any ideas. All right, we're not there yet. And she's a finance writer, so she knows all about the money. So she's definitely going to be asking all these questions.